Some of the greatest albums in rock history weren't born from inspiration. They were born from lawsuits, from label pressure, from addiction, from heartbreak, from bands that could barely stand to be in the same room. These are 10 classic rock albums that nobody wanted to make, records created under pressure, pain, or pure obligation. And somehow, they still became unforgettable. Let's start with number 10. Number 10, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Echo, 1999.
No, I don't pretend there's any more.
By 1999, Tom Petty was exhausted. His marriage was collapsing, his band was strained, and creatively, he wasn't sure he even wanted to continue. Echo wasn't conceived as a triumphant comeback. It wasn't a grand artistic statement. It was an album made during one of the darkest periods of Petty's life, and you can hear it.
No, I don't pretend there's any more of that.
Unlike the swagger of Damn the Torpedoes or the polish of Full Moon Fever, Echo feels heavy, personal, raw in a way Petty rarely allowed himself to be. Songs like Room at the Top and Swingin' carry a sense of emotional isolation. There's less defiance, less bravado, more vulnerability. Petty later admitted he was deeply unhappy during its creation. His divorce from Jane Benyo was unfolding. The sessions were tense. The mood was anything but celebratory. This wasn't a band firing on all cylinders. It was a band surviving.
That echo when you walk.
Even the recording process reflected that mood. Produced by Rick Rubin, the album stripped things back. The arrangements were lean, the tone subdued. It felt less like a classic Heartbreakers record and more like a man documenting quiet, emotional fallout. And here's the irony. Despite the pain behind it, Echo became one of the most honest records of Petty's career. Critics praised its introspection. Fans later revisited it as a hidden gem. But at the time, it wasn't fun, it wasn't easy, and it wasn't something Petty eagerly rushed to create. Some albums explode into existence. Echo feels like it slowly bled into it. Number 9, Fleetwood Mac, Tusk, 1979. By 1979, Fleetwood Mac were on top of the world. Rumors had sold over 40 million copies worldwide. It was polished, perfect, radio-friendly, practically unstoppable. So what did the band do next? They made an album almost no one, especially their record label, wanted. Tusk was not supposed to happen this way. Warner Brothers expected Rumors Part 2, more soft rock hits, more immaculate harmonies, more chart domination. Instead, Lindsey Buckingham went experimental. He recorded in his home studio. He embraced rough edges. He layered strange percussion, unconventional structures, and lo-fi textures. He didn't want to repeat Rumors. The label absolutely did. The result was chaos. The recording budget ballooned to over $1 million, making it one of the most expensive albums ever produced at the time. The sessions stretched on. Tensions inside the band, already fragile after multiple breakups, grew worse. Stevie Nicks wasn't thrilled with Buckingham's direction. Mick Fleetwood worried about commercial backlash. The label executives were openly nervous. And Buckingham? He pushed harder. The title track featured the USC Trojan Marching Band. Not That Funny felt deliberately abrasive. Even the album structure, a sprawling double LP, defied expectations. It wasn't glossy, it wasn't safe, and it definitely wasn't the easy follow-up everyone wanted. When Tusk was released, it sold well, but not Rumors well. Critics were divided. Some called it self-indulgent, others called it genius. Over time, opinion shifted. What once seemed reckless now feels daring. What once sounded messy now sounds innovative. Today, many fans consider Tusk a bold artistic statement. But make no mistake, this wasn't an album born from comfort. It was born from pressure, and from one band member refusing to repeat himself. Number 8, Van Halen, Diver Down, 1982. By 1982, Van Halen were one of the biggest hard rock bands on the planet. 4 albums in 4 years, arena tours, Eddie Van Halen redefining guitar hero status. So naturally, the label wanted another hit record. Fast. The band, not so much. Diver Down wasn't born from inspiration, it was born from obligation. Warner Brothers wanted product, something to keep the momentum going while the band figured out their next real move. Instead of taking time to write a fully original album, Van Halen rushed into the studio. The result? An album packed with covers. Pretty Woman. Dancing in the Street. Where Have All the Good Times Gone? 5 of the 12 tracks were covers, a huge percentage for a band known for explosive originals. And behind the scenes, tensions were boiling. Eddie Van Halen wanted to experiment. David Lee Roth wanted flashy rock anthems. The creative divide that would eventually split the band was already forming. Producer Ted Templeman pushed for radio-friendly material. Eddie wanted darker, more complex music. No one was fully satisfied. Ironically, the album sold over 4 million copies in the US alone, but many fans sensed something was off. The band themselves later admitted it felt incomplete, like a placeholder rather than a statement. It wasn't the album they were passionate about, it was the album they were expected to deliver. And maybe that's why it sounds the way it does. Energetic, yes, but slightly restless. Diver Down isn't a disaster, but it's an album that exists because the machine needed feeding. And sometimes that pressure makes artists create something they weren't ready to make. Number 7, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Let Me Up, I've Had Enough, 1987. By 1987, Tom Petty was exhausted. Years of legal battles with his label, constant touring, pressure to keep delivering hits after Damn the Torpedoes and Southern Accents. And then came an album whose title said everything. Let Me Up, I've Had Enough. It didn't feel like a concept, it felt like a confession. Petty later admitted this was one of his least favorite albums he ever made. He wasn't inspired, he wasn't energized, he was burned out. The recording sessions dragged, the band felt disconnected, and the songs came together under pressure rather than passion. You can hear it in the tone. The production leans heavily into glossy mid-80s polish, gated drums, layered keyboards, that unmistakable 1987 sheen. It wasn't the raw, jangly Heartbreaker sound fans loved. It sounded like a band trying to survive the decade, not redefine it. Commercially, it did fine, but creatively, Petty felt trapped. He later said he needed to make that record just to get it out of his system, like clearing the slate. And what happened next proves it. Just 2 years later, he released Full Moon Fever, one of the strongest albums of his career. Sometimes the album nobody wants to make is the one that pushes you towards something better. Number 6, The Strokes' Angles 2011. By the time Angles came out in 2011, the Strokes were already legends. Is This It had reshaped indie rock. They were hailed as saviors of guitar music in the early 2000s, but behind the scenes, the band was barely functioning. Angles wasn't recorded like a typical band album. It was assembled. Julian Casablancas was distant. The rest of the band recorded parts separately. Some members didn't even show up to sessions together. For a group built on tight chemistry and shared cool detachment, this was a red flag. Julian later admitted he felt disconnected from the process. The other members wanted more creative control after years of him dominating songwriting. Tensions over direction, polished pop versus gritty minimalism, created friction. Instead of 5 guys in a room, it became 5 individuals emailing files. You can hear it in the album. Angles isn't bad. It has strong moments. Under Cover of Darkness proved they still had it. But stylistically, it's scattered. Some tracks sound like classic Strokes. Others feel like solo experiments stitched together. It's an album that feels divided, because the band was divided. You can hear it in the album. Angles isn't bad. It has strong moments. Under Cover of Darkness proved they still had it. But stylistically, it's scattered. Some tracks sound like classic Strokes. Others feel like solo experiments stitched together. It's an album that feels divided, because the band was divided. Number 5, Foo Fighters, 1 by 1, 2002. By 2002, Foo Fighters were massive. 3 successful albums, radio staples. Dave Grohl had officially stepped out of Nirvana's shadow. But behind the scenes, 1 by 1 nearly ended the band. The sessions were a disaster. The band recorded an entire version of the album, and Dave Grohl hated it. So what did he do? He scrapped almost all of it. Imagine spending months recording, only to start over from scratch. That decision cost nearly $1 million in studio time. Tensions exploded. Grohl temporarily left to drum for Queens of the Stone Age. The rest of the band felt sidelined. Communication broke down. At one point, it wasn't clear if Foo Fighters would even continue. When they regrouped, the energy shifted. Grohl leaned into aggression. The result was heavier, darker, more intense than their previous work. All My Life sounded like a band fighting for survival, because they were. Ironically, the album won a Grammy for Best Rock Album. It produced major hits. It sold millions. But Dave Grohl later admitted he doesn't like much of it. He once said they should have broken up instead of making it. That's how strained it felt. Number 4, George Harrison, Somewhere in England, 1981. By 1981, George Harrison was tired of the music industry. After the spiritual triumph of All Things Must Pass, his later albums received mixed reactions. He felt misunderstood, disconnected from radio trends, and increasingly frustrated with his record label. Then came Somewhere in England, an album he didn't really want to finish.
You send the rain and bring the sun.
Warner Brothers rejected the first version. They literally sent it back. They told Harrison the songs weren't strong enough. For a former Beatle to be told his album wasn't good enough, that stung.
You got the lucky rise that says you have the life.
So he reworked it. He removed 4 tracks, added new material. One of those additions was All Those Years Ago, written after John Lennon's death. That song gave the album emotional weight and commercial traction, but it also changed the tone. What started as a quiet, introspective project suddenly became a tribute record shaped by tragedy. The sessions were tense. Harrison wasn't chasing hits. The label was. He felt pressured to modernize his sound for the early 80s market. More polished production, more radio appeal. You can hear the compromise. It's reflective, but slightly restrained. Personal, yet cautious. Commercially, it performed well. But creatively, it feels like an album made under negotiation rather than inspiration. Harrison later seemed distant from it, not angry, just detached. Number 3, The Beach Boys, Pet Sounds, 1966. This might be the most shocking entry on this list, because today Pet Sounds is considered one of the greatest albums ever made. But in 1966, not everyone in the Beach Boys wanted to make it.
Tell me you want it.
Brian Wilson had stopped touring. He stayed in Los Angeles while the band traveled the world playing surf hits. During that time, he heard Rubber Soul by the Beatles, and something shifted. He didn't want to write about cars and beaches anymore. He wanted to write about loneliness, vulnerability, growing up. The rest of the band, they weren't so sure. Mike Love reportedly questioned the lyrics. Who's gonna relate to this? Where's the fun? The band had built their career on sunny harmonies and teenage energy. Now Brian was bringing in harpsichords, bicycle bells, barking dogs, and some of the most emotionally raw songwriting of the decade. It didn't sound like the Beach Boys. The recording process was obsessive. Brian used session musicians, the Wrecking Crew, instead of the touring band. Some members felt sidelined, others were confused by the direction. The label didn't understand it either. Capitol Records barely promoted it. In the US, it underperformed.
Aren't you glad that you found me?
Ironically, the UK embraced it, and decades later, it's routinely ranked in the top 5 albums of all time. But at the moment it was being made, it felt risky, divisive, even unwanted by parts of the band. Number 2, Queen, Hot Space, 1982. By the early 1980s, Queen were untouchable. Bohemian Rhapsody, We Will Rock You, another one bites the dust. They were arena giants. But in 1982, they made an album almost nobody in their audience wanted, Hot Space.
I wonder when we're gonna make it.
The problem started with success. Another One Bites the Dust had a strong disco and funk influence, and it was huge. So Freddie Mercury and John Deacon wanted to push further into dance music. Synths, funk grooves, minimal guitars. Brian May? He wasn't thrilled.
Come on, you can shock me. Let's get on to the groove, make it move.
Tension built in the studio. May was a rock guitarist through and through. Now he felt pushed to the sidelines. Roger Taylor also worried they were drifting too far from their rock identity. The band wasn't united. They were split down the middle. When the album came out, fans were shocked. Where were the big guitar anthems? Where were the operatic layers? Instead, they got sparse funk rhythms and heavy synth textures. Even today, some fans call it Queen's most divisive album. The tour that followed was scaled down in the US. Critics were harsh. Brian May later admitted it was a difficult period and that the band had lost some internal balance. Yet buried inside Hot Space is Under Pressure with David Bowie, one of their greatest songs. Number 1, The Beatles Let It Be, 1970.
I find myself in times of trouble.
This wasn't just an album nobody wanted to make. It was an album made by a band that was already breaking apart. In early 1969, the Beatles had an idea. Strip everything back, no studio tricks, no elaborate production, just the 4 of them, playing live like a real band again. They called the project Get Back. It was supposed to be a return to basics. Instead, it became a documentary of a band collapsing in real time.
Yeah, there will be an answer. Let it be.
Tensions were everywhere. Paul McCartney pushed for perfection. George Harrison felt dismissed. Ringo Starr tried to keep the peace. John Lennon was increasingly distant. At one point, George literally walked out. The cameras kept rolling.
Speaking words of wisdom, let it be.
The sessions were uncomfortable. Arguments, long silences, creative disagreements that had been building for years. What was meant to reconnect them only highlighted how far apart they'd grown.
There will be an answer, let it be.
The project was shelved, then handed to producer Phil Spector, who added orchestration and choirs, something Paul famously disliked. The album that finally emerged in 1970 barely resembled the original concept. And by the time it was released, the Beatles were already over.
Speaking words of wisdom, let it be.
Ironically, Let It Be contains some of their most iconic songs. Let It Be. Across the Universe. The Long and Winding Road. But behind those songs was exhaustion, resentment, and the quiet realization that the greatest band in the world couldn't survive itself.
There may be parting, there is still a chance.
Let It Be wasn't just an unwanted album, it was the sound of a breakup. Proof that sometimes even legends reach a point where the magic can't hold everything together anymore. And that's the story of 10 classic rock albums that almost didn't happen. Because sometimes, the records that change history are the ones nobody wanted to make.